From barista to boss, Coco Gauff Revolutionary Café, Rebuild, inspires millions at just 21. At 21 years old, Coco Gauff has already lifted Grand Slam trophies, led her country through electrifying tournaments, and become a voice of her generation. But no one expected her next big move to come not on a tennis court, but behind a coffee counter. Yet that's exactly where the world found her in early 2026. Wearing an apron, hair in a loose bun, a smile as warm as the espresso machine hissing beside her, Coco Gauff, tennis superstar, global inspiration, role model, had become a barista. But this wasn't about brewing coffee. This was about rewriting her childhood story, rebuilding a forgotten community space, and transforming it into a cafe that would soon inspire millions around the world. The forgotten cafe that shaped a champion. Coco's story did not begin with fame or trophies. It began in a little Florida cafe called Morning Sprout, a cozy, slightly crooked shop tucked between a bookstore and a family tailor shop. It was where her mom brought her for after-school cookies, where her dad taught her multiplication using sugar packets, where Coco, barely tall enough to see over the counter, once told the owner, "One day I'm going to work here, and then I'm going to own it." The owner, a gentle-voiced woman named Ms. Rosa, laughed and said, "Then you better learn how to make the perfect mocha." The memory stayed with Coco, even as tennis took her far away, even as global headlines replaced childhood promises, even as Morning Sprout slowly faded from the town's heartbeat. By the time Coco turned 21, the windows were cracked, the chairs were broken, and a dusty sign hung on the door, "Closed until further notice." But to Coco, it felt like a message meant just for her. She didn't see an abandoned cafe. She saw a story waiting to be revived, the decision that shocked the world. Most young stars celebrate their 21st birthday with glamour, lavish parties, glittering gifts, private islands. Coco celebrated hers differently. She bought Morning Sprout Cafe. No press conference. No flashy announcement. No sponsorship campaign. Just a quiet signature, a deep breath, and a whispered promise to herself. Let's rebuild this from the ground up together. Her family thought she meant she would redesign it. They didn't realize she meant she would literally pick up a hammer, step onto dusty floors, and begin rebuilding it with her own hands. From tennis ace to daily barista, Coco didn't just buy the cafe. She immersed herself completely. She woke up early every morning, trading tennis gear for overalls. She learned how to fix espresso machines. She painted walls until her arms ached. She scrubbed floors, rearranged furniture, and memorized recipes that once filled her childhood with warmth. Soon, the rumor spread. Coco Gauff is rebuilding her old cafe herself. People didn't believe it until they saw her. Sweeping, drilling, painting, laughing. But Coco insisted on starting every morning the same way, working behind the barista counter. To her, it was symbolic, healing, grounding, a way to reconnect with a version of herself she didn't want fame to wash away, and the community loved her for it. The revolutionary idea that transformed everything. As Coco rebuilt Morning Sprout, she realized she didn't want it to be just a coffee shop. She wanted it to become a life center, a place where kids, teens, and even adults could come to rebuild themselves too. And so, she created a never-before-seen model. 1 part cafe, 1 part creative classroom, 1 part community sanctuary. 1. Dream desks, free homework plus mentorship tables. Students would come after school, order a drink for $1, and get help from volunteer tutors and college mentors. 2. Sprout sessions, weekly creativity workshops. From slam poetry to songwriting to photography, local artists taught free workshops. 3. Cup of Courage, support circles for teens. A safe, moderated space for young people to talk about stress, dreams, pressure, and mental health. 4. Pay-in-kind meals. Anyone struggling financially could receive food in exchange for volunteering 1 hour at the cafe. 5. Try My Shot, a program Coco created for young entrepreneurs. Teens could pitch tiny business ideas, bracelets, baked goods, art prints, and get a free weekly table to sell their creations inside the cafe. Morning Sprout was no longer a business. It was a revolution. A rebirth of purpose, a promise made real, Ms. Rosa's return, When Ms. Rosa, now 72 and living in another part of Florida, heard about the rebuild, she took a quiet bus back to Delray Beach. She stood outside, staring at the glowing new sign, Morning Sprout, reopened and reimagined by Coco Gauff. When Coco saw her, she didn't say a word. She simply wrapped her arms around a woman whose cafe had once given her wings. "Is this really my little Coco?" Ms. Rosa whispered. Coco smiled. "It's our cafe now." Tears flowed freely. Between them, from onlookers, from volunteers who understood the power of this moment. Opening day, the line wrapped around the block. The day Morning Sprout reopened, crowds filled the street. People lined up as early as 5 a.m. to witness history. The moment a global star reached back into her childhood and lifted an entire community. Coco stood behind the counter, shaking with excitement. Her first customer was a shy little girl with glasses, clutching 3 coins in her hand. I want the same drink you liked when you were little," she whispered. Coco smiled. "Hot chocolate with too much whipped cream?" The girl nodded. When Coco handed it to her, she also leaned down and said, "Someday you'll do something big too. Don't forget this place when you do." The girl smiled shyly and handed Coco the coins. Coco shook her head. "It's on me, but when you're older, you'll buy a drink for someone else." "Deal! Deal!" And the cafe erupted in applause. The movement that spread across the world. The story of a tennis champion rebuilding her childhood cafe became global news within 48 hours. But it wasn't the celebrity aspect that captivated people. It was the message. A superstar choosing community over luxury. How the cafe changed Coco. Even Coco was surprised by how deeply Morning Sprout transformed her. Whenever she wasn't competing, she worked shifts. She mentored kids who sat at the dream desks. She organized weekend leadership events. She funded the college applications of 3 teens who couldn't afford them. She later admitted, "This cafe healed something inside me I didn't know needed healing." It gave her balance, purpose, a sense of home no trophy could replace. Her tennis improved too. Her focus sharpened, her confidence grew, and her humility deepened. It was as if rebuilding Morning Sprout rebuilt Coco too. A legacy written in coffee, courage, and community. At just 21, Coco Gauff did something extraordinary. She became a boss, a builder, a community leader, a quiet revolutionary. She turned Forgotten Cafe into a global symbol of hope, proving that success is not about shining alone, but lighting the path for others. Every day, hundreds visit Morning Sprout, not just for coffee, but for inspiration. They walk in feeling tired, lost, or unsure. They walk out feeling seen, valued, and encouraged. Because Coco rebuilt more than a cafe. She rebuilt belief. She rebuilt dreams. She rebuilt a community. And she reminded the world that kindness, real, everyday kindness, is the greatest revolution of all. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share. Till next time.